The gameplay you just saw is from Astro, a zero-gravity first-person shooter that I've been developing in Unreal Engine. We're going to be having some playtests soon, so join the Discord if you want to participate. Links in the description. I haven't posted a video in a year, so I have a lot of content to show you guys. Let's get into it. As indie developers, we have a problem with content creation, and that is that it just takes a really long time to make a map. I mean, there's only two of us, me and my brother, and I write all the code and he makes all the art, so only one of us is really actually making the assets in the game. And even for AAA studios, it takes a long time to make a map and it's a big investment. So I couldn't just put this off to the side. I couldn't use a band-aid solution like buying assets, because that just wouldn't have been sustainable in the long term. So I decided to make GeoChem, which is a custom map builder that works directly inside of Unreal Engine. GeoChem is a Boolean modeling workflow, so you can basically make these atoms, and an atom is like a box or a cylinder or a sphere, and you can combine the atoms together using Boolean operations like adding and subtracting to compose any 3D model. This is really nice because we can create objects in the map directly in the place that they will exist under the same lighting conditions and with the same materials. So it just greatly speeds up how we create the map. It's also all relationally constrained, so like the center of a cylinder could be parented to the corner of a box, and this makes it really easy to edit changes because everything will kind of move when you move a single property. All the atoms together make up the formula, which is a JSON file that lists off each atom and its properties. And it's easy for me to debug and also for us to export, diff it, and do other things with it. We already got the fruits of GeoChem in the first map. My brother was able to make the whole map in only 2 weeks while I was still adding features to GeoChem, and he was kind of learning it on the fly. And I think we can go even faster with even more detail in the next map. The other cool thing is because it's in editor, I can easily convert it to be in-game, meaning that GeoChem will work at runtime, which means that players can make the maps in-game, which is super exciting because, I think it'd be cool to have a really big map building community, and it'll also help supplement us since we're just two guys, so I'm excited for that. I also made it so that GeoChem can be serialized to binary, and this means we can network it. I already probably could have networked the JSON, but when you serialize it to binary, it gets even smaller, so small that you could network it on tick. And that means that I could have GeoChem working in a multiplayer environment. So you and other people could collaborate on a map just like you would a Google Doc, which that's really exciting. Like these features combined mean that me and my brother could work on a map at the same time under the same lighting conditions with the player controller too, meaning that we can rotate the camera and view it just like we would in game. And that would just bring the development iteration down to like the absolute most efficient process possible. So I'm really excited with how this turned out, and I really can't wait to grind out more content in it and really stress it and add new features to it. So Astro is all about movement. It's been a movement shooter from the ground up, and I just feel like the coolest part about Zero Gravity is the movement in it, and we definitely needed to upgrade the movement system. In the last devlog, and especially the last playtest, which were the first playtests in Astro, I really realized that the movement was, I think, a little too hard. It was kind of this cadence of like building up a ton of speed, and then once you had a ton of speed, you'd try to engage in a gunfight, but you'd be going so fast that you'd end up just passing the other player, and then turning around and whiffing all your shots and hitting into a wall. And then once you slow down back to like 0 speed, the gunfight would actually end, and then you just have to kind of repeat the process and build up speed over time. The general theme was just that you can't think about movement and shoot at the same time. It's just really difficult. So I realized that I needed ways to make the player be able to move faster, but like in short bursts. So the thrusters are the generic movement control, which is just WASD, and then QE for up and down, which controls the 3 axes of freedom. And then there's also turbo, which is essentially our sprint mechanic. And the turbo is this limited amount of boost you get, which runs on this resource, which is charge. And you build it up over time by automatically regenerating it, but you can also use the magnets. So your suit is equipped with 2 magnets in the palms, and when you hold space, you can activate this magnet on the left hand, and it'll attract you to the nearest surface. And once you hit that surface, you enter surface lock, and you're kind of strapped to that surface, and then you can release space to push off. And while you're on the surface, if you're sliding with enough velocity, you'll actually charge back your charge meter to get more turbo. It creates this cool back and forth of using your turbo to maneuver quickly where you want to get going, then going up to a wall and using your magnets to grind on the wall, and then pushing off with an extra speed boost. And then with the new charge you just got, you can turbo to, turn a corner or make another maneuver that would have been a lot more difficult in the old movement system. We also have the 3 movement gadgets, which are the grapple, the impulse, and the teleport. I found that in playtesting, I didn't even need to rely on having a movement ability to get around the map. I could go without it, and I would still be doing just as well with the turbo and the push. We completely reworked all the guns. Starting with just the mesh, my brother remodeled every gun, and we just stepped up the visual quality a lot, especially designing with first-person perspective in mind. And we also added some cool features like displaying the ammo counter in-game, which I think gives you a lot more an immersive experience, and allowed us to push that UI icon a little bit to the side. And on the code side of things, I rewrote all of NetTick completely. Passing remark. So yeah, I completely reworked NetTick. So I really wanted to take this time to actually implement some of the features I had initially planned for the guns. And that was specifically alt fires. So alt fires are kind of just like a secondary fire that you can do with the right click. It gives the gun a lot more nuance and skill to learn. So the Ripper is our SMG, and its alt fire is the ability to shoot a burst of bullets that can ricochet off walls. And the cool thing is that the burst itself is really low damage off the initial trigger pull. However, if you ricochet, the bullets become charged when they bounce off the wall, and you can one-shot a player even if you don't even hit all the pellets. I think this is a cool area denial attack that you can use to predict a player's movement if you think they're going to come around a corner or something like that. The Sledge is our shotgun, and its alt fire is a big blast of buckshot. It doubles the number of pellets and increases the spread drastically. It also has a really big damage fall off, and eventually will also deal knockback force to the player. This mechanic kind of functions as an extended melee because the damage drop off is insane, but if you're within the 8-meter radius, it's pretty much always a one-shot. I like this because if you're moving at really high speed, it's really difficult to aim precisely, but as long as you can close the distance, provided you're moving fast enough, you can get in that 8-meter range and then just buckshot them and guarantee the kill. Also, the sound is just really satisfying. The last alt fire is the quad cannon. This was our LMG turned into a minigun. I was inspired by Battlefield's anti-aircraft flat gun that has this cool kind of cannony effect to it. And so we kind of replicated that with the quad cannon, where when you right click, you shoot this 4-pellet round that has a lot more high impact damage projectile. We also made the reload on the quad cannon be like charge based. So you can hold R to charge up bullets, but you don't have to get locked into like a super long animation where only at the very end you get the bullets. And this saw something that I hate about LMGs in other games. So I've been debating whether to make the game paid or free to play. And I've always in my mind wanted to do free to play because I just want like the most people possible to play the game. But I recognize that like being an indie, I needed to make a lot of skins to make the game free to play. So like that's kind of a huge content issue to be able to make all those skins. Whereas if I'm paid, then I can get money up front that I can then use to keep improving the game faster. The other thing about going paid is that being a paid live service game means that my primary goal is to attract new players because that's my source of income. So I'd be focused on creating new and exciting content like maps and game modes. So yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of on the fence with each option. Let me know in the comments if you have any arguments for either one, and hopefully I'll come to a decision that everyone will be happy with. So yeah, that was the whole devlog. If you're watching this and it just got released, definitely jump in the Discord to get into some playtests. I know I always say this, but I'm going to actually try to post more frequently starting now. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next devlog. Peace.